I keep a spare key to our apartment in a small dish by the door, right next to his. That evening, I noticed his key was gone, but he was standing right in front of me in the kitchen. My name is Sophia. I'm 31, and for the last 2 years, I've shared a life with a man named Julian in a small apartment in Denver that I used to think was the safest place in the world. We met at a friend's wedding. He made me laugh so hard I spilled wine on my dress, and somehow that became our story, the thing we told people when they asked how we started. 2 years in, we were talking about moving in together for good, maybe getting a dog. Everything felt settled. Nothing felt like it needed watching. That's exactly why it took me so long to notice. It started small. Julian began locking his phone with a passcode he'd never used before, said it was just a work thing. Everyone's doing it now. Then he started taking calls in the stairwell instead of the living room. Then Thursdays became his late nights at the gym, except he never came home smelling like a gym. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself 2 years doesn't just fall apart over a locked phone and a few late nights. But patterns don't ask permission to become obvious. They just do. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, I started paying attention the way you pay attention to weather before a storm. Quietly, carefully, without making a scene. I noticed he'd started ordering a second coffee some mornings, one he never drank. I noticed a hair tie in his car that wasn't mine. I noticed he flinched, just slightly, every time my phone buzzed near his. 3 weeks of noticing, 3 weeks of waiting for one piece of proof solid enough to say out loud. It came on a Tuesday. I was cleaning out his coat pockets before dropping his jacket at the dry cleaner, and I found a receipt from a hotel downtown dated the previous Thursday. His gym night. 2 drinks charged to the room. Late checkout. I didn't cry. I didn't call him immediately. I sat at our kitchen table and read that receipt maybe 15 times, like the words might rearrange themselves into something more innocent if I looked long enough. They didn't. That Thursday, I told him I was staying at my sister's for the night. I wasn't. I sat in my car across the street from our building and watched him leave at 7:40 p.m., dressed nicer than gym clothes, taking a spare key off the hook by the door, the one he never usually bothered with since he always used his main set. I followed him, not far, just to the same hotel from the receipt. I didn't go in. I didn't want a scene in a lobby, didn't want to be the crying woman security escorts out. I wanted him to tell me himself, given the chance. So I went home and I waited. He came back at 11:30 p.m., smelling like a stranger's perfume he clearly tried to shower off, but couldn't quite erase. He kissed my forehead like it was any other night. "How was the gym?" I asked. "Good. Tough one today." His voice didn't even shake. I nodded slowly and set the hotel receipt on the counter between us. "Funny," I said, "because gyms don't usually charge for late checkout." His face didn't fall right away. It just went very still, like his whole body was doing math, trying to find a version of events that could survive what I'd just placed in front of him. There wasn't one. "Sophia, I can explain." "Don't," I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected, steadier than I felt. "I'm not asking you to explain. I'm asking how long you were going to let me not know." He sat down slowly, like his legs had stopped cooperating. The silence between us was heavier than anything either of us could have said out loud. Eventually, he told me her name. Rachel, someone from his office gym, ironically. Said it started as coffee, then became something neither of them planned. Said the things people always say. It didn't mean anything, it just happened. He still loved me. I let him talk until he ran out of words, because I'd already cried everything out over those 3 quiet weeks of watching, doing math at 2 a.m, hoping I was wrong. "What do you want to happen now?" he finally asked. That question told me everything I needed to know. Not "I'm sorry," not "how do I fix this," just "what happens to me now?" "I want you to pack a bag," I said. "You can stay with your brother while we figure out the lease." "You're really ending this? Over one mistake?" I looked at him for a long moment before answering. "It was never one mistake, Julian. It was 3 weeks of you lying to my face every single day. It was a locked phone and a hair tie and 100 small moments where you chose her over just telling me the truth. I could have survived a mistake. I can't survive being lied to on purpose and made to feel crazy every time I noticed something was off. He didn't argue after that. Maybe because he knew I was right. Maybe because there was nothing left to say that wouldn't make it worse. He left with one suitcase that night. The apartment felt enormous without him in it. For the first week, I kept making 2 cups of coffee out of habit before catching myself and pouring one down the drain. He texted a lot at first, long messages about regret, about how Rachel meant nothing, about how he'd do anything to fix this. I read every one. I answered none of them. We ended the lease 3 months later. He didn't fight much. I think some part of him understood he didn't have the right to. People ask if I regret not screaming at him that night, not throwing the receipt in his face and making it the scene it probably deserved to be. I don't. I think the calmest moment of my life was the moment I finally stopped hoping he'd tell me the truth on his own and started finding it myself. 6 months later, I moved into a smaller place across town, got a cat, started sleeping through the night again. I heard through a mutual friend that Julian and Rachel didn't last much past the breakup. It rarely does when it starts the way theirs did. Some mornings now, making coffee for one, I catch myself smiling. Not because I won anything, just because for the first time in a long time, nobody in my apartment is lying to